Okay, we're just waiting another minute or two here for folks to get in on the call, and then we'll get started. What we love to do, in one way we like to get the call kicked off, is by having everyone kind of go into the chat if you feel so inclined and do a little introduction. We love to know who's all on the call and why folks are here. And it's also a great place for us to be able to see if people are have a specific question. So we prepare this and are ready to go through a start to finish. But if you have specific questions, this is a great time to put them in the chat. Let us know what they are so I can make sure to address them. We do have everyone on mute, but you can always put a question in there, and it is not allowed to unmute yourself. You can at any time as well. We just try to keep everyone a little bit quiet as we go through it. But we love to be really interactive. We love meeting people, and just think of this as a time to both connect with all of our users and people out in the world, and also to get to kind of show things that we're up to these days. So, okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We anticipate more coming in, but we'll just go ahead and start. So yeah, thanks Alex for getting started in the chat. It's really great to see that. Okay, so my name is Danielle Varda, and I am the CEO of Visible Network Labs. I am the first author of the partner platform. We dreamed it up when I was over at the RAND Corporation, and it has come through the University of Colorado Denver's School of Public Affairs, and then here into Visible Network Labs. And we have this amazing team that works on this project and many others. You'll see some of that as we go through. So today's purpose is to introduce you specifically to the partner platform, a little bit about Visible Network Labs, and really just show you kind of start to finish how you can get through using the partner tool in a pretty quick way. As soon as today. So let's go ahead and get started. I like to give a little bit of background on us and a few things before we do keep down the path of the demo. So at Visible Network Labs, we provide training opportunities for collaborative innovation and technology-based tools to help people leverage network science to strengthen supportive connections and improve the outcomes of their work. And for fun, here is a picture of our team. This is the group of people kind of behind the product, working really hard. And we find a lot of value in strong connections, and feel like that's an important part of running this and having a good team that can work well for communities. So really proud of our team, and excited for you all to know more. Just a little housekeeping so that we don't lose time at the end, but we have a couple of things that are going on this spring, and it's pretty exciting. We have an online course that'll launch around March called Developing Data-Driven Network Strategies, and I'll talk about our method in a moment here, but it's really focused on how you use network science as a lens by which to develop intentional strategies for your network work, whether it's building an ecosystem, collective impact, whatever that work is that you're doing. We truly believe that you can do that with an intentional strategy that is going to lead to far better and effective outcomes. But we believe you need data to do it. And that's really what today is all about, is how to get that kind of data. And I'll talk a little bit about how the partner tool is really developing into a tool that fits into developing data-driven network strategies. We also have our Network Innovation Summit on May 18th in Denver, which is all focused on the future of networks. And the future of networks is a big question for a lot of people. We know that we're excited about connections, but with increasing connectivity comes a lot of questions about values and ethics, and who gets left out and who gets let in, and just big questions that we really want to grapple with some big thinkers. We're taking a design thinking approach to that day, and we're going to have a problem space and a solution center, and it's just really a space for people out in the world who want to talk, big questions about the future of where is this going and what does it mean for all of us as a society. That's the place, and we're trying to host a really great conversation around that. And then, of course, that follows with the 8th Annual Network Leadership Training Academy, May 19th to 20th, which is our hands-on workshop. You see pictures here of people getting into the weeds. This is where we're really learning how to manage networks, how to use data, but also how to deal with conflict and facilitation, and all of those things that happen when you're bringing people together across sectors in diverse ways. So join us for those days. I think early registration ends mid-February, but so you have some time, but you know, they sell out pretty quick. So I just wanted to make sure we have a chance to let folks know that that's a thing. And also we do open office hours every second Thursday of the month. So if you just want to call and just talk projects, talk ideas, you know, talk data, join us there. It's just our team. We do project talk ourselves, and we would just love to have you join us. And if you're having trouble keeping track of those things and opportunities, be sure to either go to our webpage or email us. You can be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and that's where we post all of that good stuff, and blogs, and it's where we share partner stories and things like that. All right, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining. If you just jumped in, we love it when people put an intro in the chat box so we can kind of get a little bit of understanding of who's here. We've made some pretty important connections, a funder to a project one time. So feel free to jump in there and let us know why you're interested in this, and specifically if you have any questions that I can answer during this call. And Alex, the back end, texts those things to me. Alex is on the call as well. He's from our team, and he is the support on this, so he gives me those questions. Okay, so what are networks? Well, we use the term networks because we take a data science lens, and the partner platform is a way to track these kinds of things. We use this to track coalitions, collective impact, ecosystems, systems change. So we're just using the word network broadly to make it easy for everyone to feel like their thing fits into this. Really what we're focused on, you know, in networks is trying to understand, you know, what these nodes are, whether they're organizations, people. We are getting into work where these are thoughts and speeches and, you know, things that people learn and know. So from a systems perspective, the nodes are all kinds of things. And of course, the relationships between them. So that's the thing we're trying to measure, which is what is the quality and content of those relationships. You might know, if you've heard any of our talks, that we take a network science lens, which is has a basic premise that more is not better. So if we just believed that more is better, our goals, our strategies would always be to have more nodes and more lines. But what we know is that's overwhelming for most people, and that there's nuances in these relationships that make them super valuable and effective. And we need really good ways to measure that and visualize that. And so that's what Partner does, is it allows you to get good measures. We have a lot of validated measures I'm going to talk about that you get access to, and then also how to analyze them and measure them in ways that improve your strategy. So it's not, we love the maps, we love the beautiful maps, but you know, good data in is good data out. And so we are really focused on making sure that these are high quality measures of how to understand these nodes and connections in ways that can impact the outcome, be effective in communities, and really make change. Because the last thing we want to do is spend everyone's relationship budgets down and not have an effective outcome. This is a method. The basis of this is social network analysis. It collects data on who's connected to whom, how the connections vary and change, focus on patterns of relationships. We look at things like the type, extent, quality of those connections. And, you know, we create these little maps. And just really quick here, if a survey was out, you know, if Garth said he was a friend to Bill, we would see here that, you know, in the survey, or Garth had indicated he was a friend of Bill and maybe even rated a friendship as a 2. So the data turn into maps like this. We can conceptualize these as networks, as systems, again, as ecosystems. It's not that this is excluding any of those. It's actually inclusive of all of those ways of thinking. But what we're focused on is how to really get data on those things. I'm just going to do one slide here on kind of like the justification of why you might want to have data behind these maps, and why it might make sense for you in your work, and then we'll go right into the demo. We call this slide kind of a life cycle of a sustainable network, because I'll walk you through it first. If you look here in the center, the little squares and circles, those nodes, as we call them, let's say organizations, in each of the maps around the 4, those don't change. The position of them are exactly the same. So the only thing that's changing in these 4 pictures are the lines between them. And that's really key, because what that means is we can have a set of actors, a set of agents or people or organizations in a network or a system. And the changing nature of those relationships is really what happens and why the impact of the connection matters. So what happens a lot of times is a community with a bunch of, let's say, organizations get a grant, for example, and in phase 1, they work on really creating these ties, creating connections, and often we'll have a meeting of some sort, figure out who's at the table, and then identify very quickly who's not at the table. So it's the most natural first approach to building these networks or ecosystems is to take stock of who's connected to whom and then who's not. So very quickly, we usually get into a place where we want to start connecting, and here we go. Start connecting, and we invite them in. We have strategies that bring people together. And then we quickly go to phase 3, which is often growing the network, which is where we spend a lot of time having maybe a monthly meeting. We get people together. We're trying to connect. And the real issue, the problem that we're trying to solve with the work that we do is that's where networks and systems stay. So if you are building a movement, more might be better, and you might just want to grow that. If you are building a community coalition or some kind of work that has limited resources, you might want to start thinking about, well, what's going to happen if we just go with this more is better approach and we're all just trying to build up new connections constantly. What we know from that in all of our research is it's exhausting for people. They start to check out. They start to wonder if they are valued, what their role is. They stop coming to the meeting, and eventually the funding often goes away and there's no plan for what to do next. So what we do is we try to help people using this partner platform and network science thinking in our method to get people from this phase 3 to phase 4. So phase 4 is just an example here. It's really just the, one way. It's not the way. But for example, if you could move the same group of folks into perhaps 4 strategic work groups with, let's say, a keynote in each work group that has the ability to, really disseminate and broker information. And if we can identify who those people are who can play that key role from some data we got from this larger group, we can start to make some smart choices about how to engage people. So what we try to do is get people into this phase 4 with some key metrics. One is, or some key characteristics. One is everyone has a role. And 2, they know what they're going to do and how they're going to activate on that role when they're invited into the group or invited to a meeting. So they know their role and they know that it's going to be valued when they get there. And 3, that we lead these kinds of initiatives promising people that we're going to try to sustain it with the least amount of resources possible, which means we absolutely cannot maintain it at the level we did in phase 3. So we really need to move people into the phase 4 so that, and what we found, again, through our research and through multiple evaluations over years, is that this is how a network sustains. When people have a role, they know what it is, and they know that the network is being run in its most efficient and effective way, lean way possible. And if you think about it, how networks and connections are built, we don't really have to maintain connections at a really high level of interaction once we've established a strong tie. So think about our friends and family. We don't interact with them every day, but we know that we're really connected with them. We really need to move into a place in these systems and communities where we trust that we've built the right connection just so much that we can start letting go of all of the increasing, times and interactions. The reason that we say that is just because it's not sustainable, and we watch so many people. I bet those of you on the call, if I did a little poll now, most of you involved probably with 3, 4, 5 networks or more, and probably watching multiple people come to the same ones. It's overwhelming. So we're really at a place, like our future of Network View is really, how do we maintain this wonderful momentum, this wonderful collaborative advantage, but without losing everyone to the overwhelming nature that it has become. So that's the goal of Partner, and our method is to really help people and communities get to this place where we can sustain these things and get the best outcome from them. So I've mentioned our partner methodology a few times, and this is going to track onto the partner platform. I just want to show you where you'll be in the method when you're there. So what we do is the partner methodology is really to help people develop these intentional data-driven strategies. So the first thing we think folks need to do is shift to a network mindset, a network science mindset, which really means more is not necessarily better, and there has to be a better way. So we have a lot of resources for that. Then the next is to design your strategy. And usually when I ask people, what is your strategy? And they'll say, it's a network approach. That's your approach, but your strategy really gets in the weeds. Like, you know, how do people get invited in? How do you decide who's in and out? Who gets to govern? What is your end game? Does it end? Is it temporary? Is it perpetual? What is the strategy? And then once we have that very simple worksheet we fill out with folks, then you need to track your progress in networks over time. And so that tracking is a data system, and we use Partner for that, which allows you to adapt, learn, revise your strategy, and then finally enact those new strategies. And that just goes on and on. And we really believe networks are living and dynamic, breathing, and they need this kind of rejuvenation of learning and understanding so that we can continue to grow them and do them effectively. That's what we go over in our online course. But today I'm going to sit in this track section of our method and really get into the weeds on that. So let's dive into this. You guys are here to hear about the Partner platform. So the Partner platform is really stands for the program to analyze, record, and track networks to enhance relationships. And you can find it at partnertool.net or right through our visiblenetworklabs.com website. But this was created in order to build capacity in communities and for people to apply these kinds of network science and data approaches without it being a huge lift. Just clear, easy measures you can grab, clear links, no data cleaning, to really get to that place where you're learning and you have something at the end to share and disseminate and show progress of what you've done. I thought I'd give a little bit of background about Partner. It all started with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who funded this for about 7 years as we developed the measures in it and just all of it. It was when I was over at RAND and we did this with community members and just asked them, what are you trying to do in the world? How are you trying to measure these things? And learned and learned and learned and started to build. We built a lot of Excel sheets that did fancy things. It went online, and today I'm really excited to show you what it is today. But what really that turned into is about 4,500 users across the country who started adopting it. Each of these are like the networks out in the world that have their own, you know, connections and communities. We have data that come into the platform from all 50 states, actually internationally. And because it all comes into the server, and unless someone opts out, it sits there. We're also growing this. It's anonymous, it's confidential, but database of networks all around the country, and we're working really hard right now to make that more, use that as a tool for folks to be able to benchmark their work and really understand what's happening in communities without always having to collect new data. What happened after all these users started using it is that funders and organizations like the Gates Foundation and our healthcare organizations, other kinds of partners, started to use the platform and work with us in partnership on projects. And that's really been an amazing resource for the Partner tool, because it not only has given us amazing partnerships and ways to look at the world and evaluate and be able to really put our knowledge into practice, the data into practice, but it's also allowed us to grow the platform. And so we don't have big funding streams. What we do is if we build features for some of these awesome partners, then we bring it back out to the whole user base. So what you'll see today and what you'll see grow over the next year is a lot of, you know, what we're building with these partners, and in you know, a shared mission to build capacity and community, and a shared mission for collaboration and work together. We build those things and put them out in ways that make it really accessible to people. So what does Partner do? It maps connections. I mentioned we use social network analysis. We can track, so I'll talk about tracking over time, which is coming real soon. We can visualize partnerships. We can look at things like, why are members engaging? What will keep them engaged? Measures of perceptions of value and trust. We can identify resources, leverage and partners, and identify gaps and opportunities, and so many other things. So last thing here, what makes Partner different? So you might be looking at a lot of different tools. We actually use the other tools, but what makes Partner really unique, and why we will never use another tool for any kind of thing that involves getting data to visualizing it, we can create custom network surveys visualize and analyze the data and now track it over time, and also, you know, build reports, share insights, and share with others. But the thing that makes it so different is that everything is linked. You never leave the platform. You create, customize these surveys. By the time you're analyzing it, you didn't have to tell it anything. It knows every attribute you put in. It knows every change and edit to every single question. It knows all your response options, and it gives you access to all of them. And you can download your raw data, but no other tool will do that. It's amazingly smooth. What it knows that you're doing when you set it all up just really has turned it into a tool that we are seeing people use all over, because it's just a way to do stuff kind of in the easiest way. The partner features that I'm going to go through today. So our current features, we have customizable surveys, our member upload and profiles, beta GIS mapping in there, collaborator access, email system, and integrated and automated mapping and analysis. Come late spring, we have all kinds of things. I'll be able to show you some of them. We have additional question types, a whole question bank. Our snowball sampling will open soon. Our Pro GIS mapping, which I can share a little bit of that with you today too, customized automated reporting or automated emails, unlimited attributes, and customizable member profiles and call-out boxes are all coming, and we will have a different pricing. So if you're thinking about how to buy Partner or come in on it, anyone who's in it before the Pro versions, you know, we're celebrating as our early adopters of this kind of new version of Partner, and we'll always give those people like certain rates and discounts that are cheaper than our Pro version, but we're trying to move more into a real sustainable model around the software. And so, and then live data tracking is more like a CRM type style system. And we have some partners who are using it this way. We're actually working with some of our, the organizations I showed just a minute ago to timestamp, do longitudinal analysis, comparison analytics. We're building all of that out. And so in a lot of working phase right now, but eventually we will release it out into the whole platform. Very excited about that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch out of this PowerPoint. So if there are any questions out there, Alex will text them to me, and then I'll be able to answer them. If you haven't introduced yourself, you know, please do. We still want everyone to have a good chance to get to know each other. So what I'm going to do here is just click over online. If you haven't been in the platform yet, you might want to just go right to our site, our website. You can log in, you can click here, and it'll get you to the partner platform. This is where you can find, for example, the partner resources I'll refer to, information on our person-centered app, which I won't go through today. Other resources, we run a pretty active blog, infographics galore that are really fun to see. And of course, information on our online course and learning events are over here. And as I mentioned, we do a lot of work on projects. We have a learning lab and a place where we actually work with with clients. And so you can tap into any of that. What I'm going to do though, is actually, I'm going to start here. So what I did is I could log out now. I'm going to stay logged in, but when you log in, you'll see a screen like this. You'll get some guiding things here. You can try a free practice project. So from start to finish, you can try it. We believe that you should really know what you're doing before you ask other people to get involved with it, and really understand the burden, the respondent burden, what you're going to get on the other end. So we give you a free practice project. We do ask if you're using this for your real work or your real survey that you do pay for the license to use the actual survey, which is $50 just to use the survey is all it is. You can give it a try, and it'll show you right where to go, where your practice survey is, and you can just click right in there and get started. I'm going to skip that so I can show you a real one. And then this is if you actually kind of want to play around. I'm going to play around in our sandbox for this demo. So if I click there, it'll show you where to go. And so it'll kind of walk you through how to get started on that. So a couple of guiding things in that way. So I logged in in a different way. You can make that bar go away eventually. Again, here's some resources you can access straight from here. Here's our methodology and the kind of data tracking process that I'll walk through right now. To do this work, you're going to have to do a couple things. You have to think about who you want to include. You have to define the metrics. What do I want to ask people to answer questions about? Collect the data, so use our email system to go out and get all the data. and then you can map and also analyze the data and then create reports. So I'm going to walk through these 5 things that you can do. You can see I have a bunch of projects in here. Most of them are all demos. There are a couple of others. You'll see that I have 71 projects in my thing here. I've been invited to collaborate on 15 others, and I have 519 survey invitations. I demo this quite a bit. This is a little bit of project management. I'm on the home screen here, so you can see all of your projects. I'm going to start with the analysis tool today. So I'm going to start actually with steps down here, map and analyze and create the report, because I actually think it's really fun to see what you're going to get out of this before you put all the work in to do it. So I'm going to start down there. So I'll start in the sandbox. It'll kind of show you how to work through that as well. But I can create new projects right here. If I haven't paid for them, it'll ask me to pay my $50 to do that. Something else I should highlight is that you can always, after you're done with the project, ping us and we can produce a report for you in probably 24 to 40 hours, a full report of all of your data. So keep that in mind as a resource. So when I click on any of these, like my January demo, I'm going to have all these options to do these things that I'm going to walk through in here. So that's how I manage each of my projects. So one of the really fascinating things about this is that you can manage multiple projects at one time. And you can share those projects in a read or write access to collaborators. So it's a great place to run big projects. We're actually working with some of our partners on how to manage big projects at once so that there would be a project owner and then project managers. So that kind of way of using the tool is evolving and should be available to use sometime later this year. So right now I'm going to go ahead in here. I can always get the stats on my thing. This is just an example data set. So at all times you can export your data. Data is always available to you. It comes out as an Excel spreadsheet. So if you don't want to use our analysis tool, you don't have to. You can use the survey builder and get the data out. I can tell you the big benefit is linking it all to the analysis tool without having to clean or make sense of that. So I would recommend that for sure. When you get here, here's all your steps. So if you're always trying to go through the steps of what you do, here they are. And what we, want you to be able to do is walk through that as easily as possible. So you'll get prompted by a lot of different places as how to do that. Oops, sorry, I just put in the wrong thing there. So let me try this again. So I want to show you a few of our features that we're working on right now as well. So I'm going to click into this site. So what you'll start to see here is, okay, so when you get to this page, we're going to see a few things. Here is another spot to download your raw data. I'll click that and you'll see it pop up here in just a minute. This just popped up, the survey worksheet. I'll show you in a second. So here's your raw data. You'll see it's very clean. It comes out in very analyzable ways. We are analyzers ourselves, researchers. So, and over here, every question and change and tweak you made to the system is also captured. This is truly like probably the benefit of using this tool is that we thought through all of this for you. So your relational, non-relational data are all here. So you want to do that. There's also an insights library here. If I come here, I might want to say, well, my map right here is all about building trusting relationships. If I click here, we load this with things like what the science says, questions you might consider, advice from our team. A lot of that comes from work that we've done. And so the Insights Library, we are super focused on learning. If you're getting data, we should be learning from it, thinking about how it applies to our work and trying to move forward in a way that, so we don't just, data for data's sake is not very helpful, but data for learning's sake is really helpful. So the Insights Library is growing. We are making it match a lot of other things right now, but at any time you can go in there and find a lot of great resources. It's packed with information. So what I'm going to do down here is show you how the actual analyzer works. Here's the visualizer. Up here you can see the date you created it, response rate, completion rates, who the owner is, and this is where I can add collaborators. I go on here, and as long as there is the person is registered in the platform, it's taking a little minute there, I'll come back to it, I can add them in as a collaborator. So what's amazing is if I click here into this data options place, when I start dropping down, you're going to see all of these text here. All of this comes from the surveys that I sent, the way that I collected the data. So if I asked a question, please indicate what your organization, program, department contributes or can potentially contribute to this system, it's going to pop in here. And what's even kind of more amazing is when I do that, if I say, I want to look at everyone who said volunteers or volunteer staff, they all just turned striped. So what's amazing about the system is if I ask questions in the survey, they can come populate into my map and I didn't have to do anything. All I did is I launched the survey, came over here, and I'm looking at who said what. I can color the nodes by different things like sector. I can look at, like, for example, public, private, nonprofit sector, and I can size them by a few network measures, like how many people picked that node as a partner, how many did they pick. Or my value and trust scores if I used those in the survey. So I'm going to enable this zoom thing here and make it a little smaller so we can see it. What you probably are noticing, I have not yet drawn the line. So what I'm trying to show you are some really neat features that you can use in the tool without even having going to the network maps yet. So any question, so how successful has it been? I can come here and say who said somewhat successful. So I can start to look at like how people perceive and answered questions as they're connected to each other. The larger the node, I'm on value, means it's some of the value questions. Okay, so over here, I'm going to drop down. These are all my relational questions I asked in the survey, and you can ask as many as you want. I'll talk about in a moment that we have a validated 19-question survey that about 90% of our users use or base their surveys off of. That's what this is reflecting here. So if I say how frequently do these partners work together, I can click that. Now I've got lines. So in this map down here, it is showing all the responses that are at least never. So when I drop this down, these are all the responses that I put into the survey for people to pick. So here they are, and again, however I customize the survey, it just knows you did that. So it's over here, you don't have to do anything. But let's say I want to look at just exactly who said that they interact about once a month. So this is, I can say, okay, this is interesting. Let me move this, whoops, let me move the whole thing over. So I can see that some people don't. If I want to say I want to look at who connects at least once a month, then I can see everyone who said once a month or greater. So what I might be interested too, though, is I might say, well, I want to take the private sector out. And I just want to see how public and nonprofit organizations interact together. And I can start to see that. I can say, I want to take the public sector out, any of my groups. And this is just my nonprofit partners and how they interact together. And I'm interested here, to see, oh, my nonprofit partners aren't even all connected. So that might be part of my strategy that I really want to start with, building connections in places I'm finding gaps, and so forth. So I can kind of, what's a neat feature is you can bring this together. And here I can see, oh, there's a couple of private sector companies here that are working closely with government agencies. So that's an interesting little sub-network inside my network. I wonder what's going on there. They look like they might even be connected in a few ways. And so it'd be interesting to be able to see that. I can go over here to my settings and I can say, I've got my Zoom box is open. Oops. So what I can do here is say I want to show the labels. So now I've got labels on there, and I can actually, this is just a demo set. So they're coded by organization, by their number. And what I might want to do is, make the labels a little bit bigger, which I often do. I also like to do things like, for example, I like to color the lines by a different color. I think this really helps when I get everyone back in there and I put every tie that I possibly can. As networks get really crowded, it's easier to see them, the ties with the lighter colored map, or lines. So that's what I'm doing there. And if I need to, I can pin the nodes in this spot. So if I'm creating a presentation or something like that, the nodes won't move. So that's really helpful when you're trying to really make reference to like a key player or a group of nodes or a way that folks are interacting. And of course, because networks are dynamic, here they are moving around as we speak, if I don't want them to. I can also click here and I can, on the node, I can, for example, just say I really want to look at, you know, organization 11 here and who they're connected to. And it'll show me what we call their ego map. So it's just kind of their smaller connections. I'll show you in our member profiles, we highlight the ego map. So if you kind of want to see how people are connected together, you can. And then I would just go back to the full map here and I can step through those in any way. And I can even use all my features in all parts. You know, if I want to see who in that sub group said what is successful and what wasn't, let's say successful. Oops, one person did. So I can use all my features no matter what, you know, way I'm looking at my map. Okay, and then you can see over here there's a lot of other things you can do. And one thing you can do also is have a call out box. So when I click on, oh, it's not popping up right now, but there it is, the call out box. So for each node, you can put information in, and so you can customize these boxes. That'll be in our pro version coming out very soon. But right now, it'll just load like basic information, so basic attributes and our network scores in there about that node. But if I load it in with all kinds of other information, I can also pick to show me their survey answers. I can also pick for, you know, to show me relationships and things like that. So whatever I want to put in these call out boxes, they are there, and they're fully customizable, which is really nice. Okay, so that's a little bit about this. Last thing I'll show you here is if I go, like for example, the primary org function. Let me pick a different one. The group, so it's not as big. So I have a bunch of groups here. So as I change what I want to color the nodes by or my grouping, I can filter. So that little functionality I was showing you before, I find it so helpful when I'm analyzing data, is that I can really look at the way people and groups interact together by these different attributes. So these attributes, again, can be anything. So it's a really nice way to sort through your pictures and that. And before I move off of this screen, I'll show you down here is this really neat function for screenshots. If I'm like, I love this map, usually, you know, I would control or function print screen or control print screen or whatever, you know, work through how to capture that. Now what I can do is just go like this. It's captured my image just as I wanted it, and I just can continue to do that. You can see I do it in the bar charts. We can do it in our GIS maps and all kinds of things. I'll show you in a minute. That feeds into the reporting option. When you're building your reports, you can pull the graphs in, the screenshots that you made. Really neat feature. We built this because it just was so time consuming to constantly grab screenshots of everything and try to, you know, put them in something else. Whoops. Okay. So I'll walk through a couple of other things. So this is our beta GIS maps, and then these are our new GIS maps. So the beta maps are awesome. What we have done here is the new GIS maps, we're going to have additional features and some new ways to use it. But you can take your network, and as long as you put addresses in for each of your nodes, it'll map them out this way. So you can see it carried over all the attributes and all the colors and everything that I just put in. I can change, you know, any of those. If I'm like, oh, it's really hard on a map, I can change them to yellow lines, and then suddenly, boom, I've got that. That's just too much. Let me change that back. So here are some lines. I can do my kind of ego map look here if I just want to know which each of these are connected to. And then I can also, of course, like change how I color the nodes, or these kinds of, whoops, sorry, these kinds of, let me get this. Zoom makes it hard to have so many windows open. Okay, so from right here, I can still analyze. So when I'm looking at things this way, it seems like it's slowed down just a little bit for a second here. I can pull in, you know, these other responses. So if I said, what is, you know, our most important outcome, and I have reduction of health disparities, you know, I can see that this person answered that that's one of the outcomes they're focused on, and then I can, so all of the features that work in the network mapping work in our GIS map. So really nice, really great. And we've also loaded in some base layers. So for example, these come from county health rankings and roadmaps and some of our partner projects where people have asked us to put these in there. So if I go to this, for example, I can see % of children in poverty, and so you can add base layers in. And the way that this will work is eventually you can add any base layers in that you request of us. If you have data for, we can find. And right now we're doing that manually one-off when a client or a customer or someone asks us for it. So really exciting. And I'll just show you real quick on the new GIS map. the maps are a little bit better. You can see the cities in a little bit better way. What's highlighted here, it's very exciting for a project we're working on in Colorado. We're working with a partner who wanted us to map the Senate and House legislative lines on there. And so I have all the lines on there, so it's a little hard to see, but these are the districts in Colorado of the House and Senate. And so, you know, as we go into the legislative season and folks use this tool as a policy, you know, tool, that those kinds of things become important. So we're adding that. We'll add it for the whole country. Whoops, eventually. And I actually don't. I'm going to refresh that. I don't know how I just made that map flip. But you'll basically be able to put those legislative and district lines on. So there's an example of having a partner that we were able to do, you know, a new feature with, and we'll bring it to the whole platform. And we will definitely change like how people have access to it in terms of some cost layers, just because we need to stay sustainable. But that's how we build out. So that's really neat. And of course, I can take them off. And right now, you're only seeing them on Colorado because we're just working on that right now. But some, you know, other base layers are in here. And again, we'll just continue to build those out. And then on the nodes, if I have my settings on and I want to see the details, of course, I can see them right within the map as well. And from there, I can click to go to their member profile. Because some of our projects are real member profiles, what I'm just going to show you today is an example of a member profile, because I realized I didn't really have one that didn't have information in it. But when you click on member profile, you go to a screen and it looks like this. So you can put in a person's avatar, their logo or picture, and then this is customizable. You can see their network map. You can actually see who they said they're connected to and then how they answered the question. And these will be printable as PDFs so that you can, if this is a great incentive, if you get someone to answer a survey and they give you all that data, at the end, you can give them this. You can email this PDF to them to show them their member profile. We're also building access so members in the network can come in and see their, depending on the kind of access you want to give them, the kind of visibility to all the data. But we are finding these member profiles as not only helpful in our strategy work, making decisions, deeply understanding perceptions of each other, but also as tools to get people to answer surveys and share back information with people. We just really believe if people give us information, we should give something back to them. So at least at a minimum, a member profile, if not even just access to network data. Because imagine any one of us, for example, this is an example right here, it's not even an actual person, but if Blythe here, connected to American Cancer Society in the Michigan area, was trying to demonstrate to her board, for example, how her collaboration work has happened over time, she could come in here, print this. We've had people even use these in their annual reports or for grant writing. It's to show how their organizations are embedded in these bigger networks. So we're really excited about that and really grateful to some of our partners who let us build that with them. And then bring that back out to the whole user base. So the maps are growing. Our head developer, VP of engineering, Mike Cooper, is our brain child behind all this, and he is just amazing, and you wouldn't believe his vision on where this is going to go. So very excited on all of that. Last couple of things I'll show you. We do have scores. You know, all of this, behind all of this is numbers, and it's good data. This is where you would see information at the organizational level about like their number of connections, for example. If you included the value and trust score questions in your survey, you'll find those over here. And these are perceptions that folks made of each other. And it's just, this is invaluable information. I always say there's no real measure of a relationship other than our perceptions of each other. So your perceptions of me right now, my perceptions of you are our real relationship. And if we can capture those, it gives us knowledge and understanding and learning to really build and strengthen them and leverage them. That's what this does. And we're really excited. We use these measures quite a bit. You can also see just whole network scores. We'll have a dashboard in here soon that, you know, but right now, at least you have the scores of overall measures. I'm going to talk through the measures in just a minute, so you'll see how we measure power and influence, a level of involvement and resource contribution as value, and reliability, mission congruence, and discussion as trust. Okay, so last thing on there, that's, you know, I could go on and on about these and how you would use that, but of course we're limited in time, and I want to spend the last few minutes on the survey. but I will show you in our report section. We're going to be building this out, and it's going to be better even in the next few months, but it's not bad now. Here's all the screenshots that I captured. This is for my whole project. I can put some stuff in there. I can put my own text on background. I can put in contributors. We offer a bunch of text in here that you can include. If you aren't really sure how to build a network report, you can use that stuff. I can come down here and say I want to use this and give this graph a title and put a description in there. I can say this map is all about building trusting relationships, and I want to include what the science says, questions to consider, and advice from the VNL team in there in my report about that. And then down here I can say this is about building trusting relationships. So if let's say I do that, I can build out my whole report that way, and then I can preview it. We do charge to actually use this report feature, but this is, the report will have all these things. This is just to check all your data and what you said. I can also type in here, but this is how I can, label the graph, make edits to it and all sorts of things. So, and then I would build it out into its PDF or Word version. We actually have it exporting as a Word version so that you can continue to make changes to it. But an amazing feature. It's kind of growing. With one of our partners, we're able to enhance the report builder. So super excited about that as well. Okay, so I'm going to switch from that to how do you get there. So those are make sure you're introducing yourself still, or adding questions to the chat box if you have any, so I can focus a little better. What I'm going to do is just show you these first 3 steps. So the first 3 steps are add members, define your metrics, and collect the data. So not an easy step in terms of thinking it through, but when I go to members, what it's going to do is this is our member page. So this is where I'm going to manage all the people I want to include. Right now, I'm going to show you the bounded member list. And so that means I can come in here. If I download my template, it's going to open this template right here. I simply fill it out. I come in here and it gives me instructions, everything with the red dot I have to put. So I have to put information about these folks in there. We give you some ways, if you can't think of how to, organize them, we have a couple of different ways you can, but you can add as many attributes as you want. You save that file and then come back over here. From here, I would import the file. So if I go like this, it's prompting me if I haven't already filled it out. So I think I did this earlier today. So let me make sure I did it right. So this should be the file. I found it, the one that I just filled out. I can fill it out with 500 names if I want. It said I did it correctly. It'll tell me if I did not. And I put address in there so I can GIS map it. And then I submit it, and now I've got an extra one in here. I can see how people have completed, whether they've started it. I can copy the link to invite them, send them emails. I can do all kinds of things from here. It's pretty great. I can even bring out a file that says who's answered. But most importantly, I can add attributes. So I can, whoops, I want to edit. So from here, I can add new attributes to my member profile. So if I want to code them by anything, I just put it in here, I put the groups in, and I add it as a new attribute. And then I come over and I can assign that attribute to each of the members of the network. And then you'll be able to bulk upload those in as well. So that's great. Those attributes are amazing. You can just add as many as you want. And so that's what happens here. That's how I get folks into this list. We do have a project right now that's using snowball sampling, which means you can ask people to enter names of others, and then they would come over here and I would see them as names that other people entered. This list I guarantee, is going to need an enormous amount of cleaning when people put it in to make it a really clean data set. So it's not quite open yet. We're trying to write some algorithms and some rules for how to clean it so that we can really help people get really good data. Bad data is not good learning. So that's what we do there. So so the bounded list is here. I can work with that. So once I get everything in, step 2. So the hard part about bounding the member list is just making decisions. So if you're wondering who's in the survey, you might want to use a snowball sampling approach. We actually have a resource in the resource list over here that is on bounding your network. You might want to consult if you're trying to figure that out. For the survey, here it is. So now I know which survey I have. I can view my consent or instructions, and I can customize them there. But what I can also do, it says that I already, this is a demo, so I'm okay to unlock it. Don't unlock this if you have people answering it, because you could mess up your data. But I'm going to show you how I can work with this. When I come here, I can choose to, for example, start from a blank slate. It's warning me I am erasing everything I just did. There it goes. I have a blank slate. I can add questions one by one here, right? When I add a question, I can say, I want the pick your organization question. I might want to add a network member selection question. Oops, so it's warning me that I didn't save. Now I can add the network member selection question. And what you'll see is I can change, you know, I can say your community system here. Everything's, I can change. I can allow only, so if this is the bounded list versus snowball sampling, I can only allow my bounded list members. I can allow the respondents to add members, and I can either let them select from when other people picked, you know, put in their own members, or I can hide those from others. It's methodologically important to decide, which we can cover in another time. And then finally, I might want to add questions like relational questions. And we have a question bank here. This is where you might find the value and trust questions, or things like how frequently does your, and then down here, other relational questions. So we have packed this with a question bank. You do not have to think of all the ways to ask people questions. It's all here. So we'll move this into the pro version soon, but if you, again, we will grandfather people in who start to use it before we move to the open the pro option. And, you know, we'll make sure people have discounts for being some of our early adopters. So, but this will be something that we are going to expand on, the question banks. We'll keep some of these basic ones here from our default survey. And also, in addition, we have relational questions are the ones that create the network map where people answer about their partners. Non-relational questions are just others. We have a question bank in here as well. Like, that's where that success question came from. So as an example, if I pick it, oops, saving me from myself again. I haven't saved my questions. So if I come here, I pick a non-relational question. Oops, I forgot to pick one from the question bank. I will pick it from the question bank. If I pick the success question, you'll see that it, oh, for goodness sakes. Let me delete this one altogether. And then, so it's really fluid and easy to move around this and do what you want to do. So I can pick any of them. You'll see that it populated it with the question. And then if it had pre-populated responses, I picked one that didn't, then it would populate those as well. So that's nice. And, you know, of course, you can move the question around and things like that. So I can preview my survey at any time and see what people will see when they come into it and how they will be asked to answer questions. I can also print the survey if I just want to print it out, share it, like especially for review and so forth. Something I'm going to do is actually come over here. There are topical templates, so you can pick if you're working in Anchor Networks, early childhood. So these are from our projects. We've put them up there as resources for people of ways to form questions if you're thinking about those. You can also pick from other projects that you've already created. And then, of course, the Partner 19 question survey, which I will select here, which is these 19 questions. So this is the thing. You can find it as a resource under the partner resources, just the printout of it. So these are all of the questions and in the order in which we ask them. So, you know, what resources do you contribute? What are outcomes, success questions? There's a couple of relational questions in here, and then our trust and value. So value is measured on those 3 dimensions: power and influence, resource contribution, and time commitment. And then you also have basically the option to include all three of them or one of them. But if you include all three of them, the analysis tool knows you did that. It knows to calculate them. It knows to add it into the maps. It knows all of that. So you might be wondering, why don't I just grab your survey and use any other tool for it? You can. It's actually, we can't prevent that, but you won't have the advantage of it just feeding right into that analysis tool. So for $15 a month, that's what you get, is the ability to take this questionnaire and do what I just showed you. So we love this. We start all of our projects with this survey, and we'd recommend you do as well. So there's that, and I can jump around my projects if I actually want to see what I did in other projects. So last thing to show you here is collecting. So on collecting, this is where you actually get to send emails. So there's a space over here where I can create templates because I might want to send the same email on multiple projects. I can create them here. I can pick to send to myself. I can see who has answered the survey or not. This one hasn't been launched. I can copy the link for people to take the survey. I can say for this one, I want to pick my Danielle's intro, my invite to template, and reminder. So they're the templates I want to use for this. I can say for this group, I want to go ahead and send the invitations. So it told me that I have, so it goes over here to send invite emails. And, you know, this just gives me that confidence of what I'm about to send. So I picked this template. If I change my mind now, I can go pick another. But default, I picked that. It's going to show me over here. If I want to change this, I have to go back to my other screen and change it. And I'm going to say, yes, indeed, this person hasn't, this is the one I just loaded, hasn't gotten it yet. And I can send it. I can also export this as a draft so that I can review it. So once I do that, I send it. And the emails are going to come over into my email box. And what I will get is, I don't know if I'll actually be able to show you that on this demo. Those are my kids. My screen always jumps back to them when I'm in between screens. So anyways, I have to open my email box and to show you, you just get an invite in. And we have a recommended schedule, a methodology for sending these. It is tried and true. Response rates are about 70 to 75%. And for our pro version for the future, we are moving into an automated email function, also again with the help of our wonderful partners, to be able to make the automation of this easier, so you can just set when you want to send it, what templates you want to use, and you can just go and send them. So that's how easy it is to get started. That's why I spend so much time on the analysis and reporting part, because it's the fun part. But getting it going is, you can get it you know, ready in a day. You can actually just get it right set up. If you know everything that you are wanting to do, you can do it right then. Okay, so I see there's a couple of questions. I'm going to spend the last few minutes answering them. So the longitudinal use of the tool is a question. So right now, when you analyze data, you analyze one project at a time. We have multiple projects where people do multiple surveys over time. So right now we do all of that really by hand. So meaning that, like, we are basically taking them out and doing it, you know, building reports, merging the data set. We have one right now that is merging a data set of all of their networks into one big network, so we can compare across all of those. So we do a lot of things like that. But what we're building, so for the future, we are starting to timestamp the data. And a lot of people who we're working with right now are using this as like a CRM type, where you can open it anytime. So let's say you have an event and you say, okay, everyone, go back into that system and track any new relationships that you just made at this conference or event. It won't erase what they did before. It'll track it. And this is a little complicated, so we're really working hard to make sure the data are super clean on this. And then what we'll do is, we'll follow that with the analytics inside the platform over time. So from here, what I'd be able to do is pick, I want to look at 3 networks at once, or I want to look at this network at 3 points in time. And our developer has a mock-up of, for example, having a slider down here where you can slide and see the network change over time. But also, we will continue to work on these network scores. That's where a lot of the analytics over time will start to pop up in the network scores section. In the network mapping, we're working on visualizing change over time as well. So that's to come, probably not really, to be honest, till later in the fall. because it's just a lot of, since we do everything in an automated way, everything has to be linked. So you don't have to figure that out. So it's very exciting, and it's coming, and we have partners who are already doing it. So what our goal is we do it by hand on the back end, or we'll work with you. We learn from that, and that's how we design, so that we just have to design one. Okay, I know we're at time, but I'm going to answer all these questions. If you can stay on, that would be great. Okay, so if you have multiple members from one organization, how does it aggregate their responses? So this is something that we really pride ourselves on, is like clean data, right? So you have to have data that makes sense. So we account for that in the step on bounding the members. So this is where every single node needs to have its own identity. So, and you're asking about these as organizations. So if this organization and this organization are the same, you need some label on that map that can distinguish them. You might put a person's name next to the organization. More often, we might put like health department, oral health, health department, early childhood, something like that. And so it's important, as part of your question, it's important to differentiate the node labels right now, and not put them together in one node. Like, you couldn't send a survey out that way. You couldn't send a survey with two organizations as the node label and someone would know how to answer it. So you have to distinguish them. So also, we don't aggregate their responses right now. So actually, that's a really good point. We haven't even really thought about that, like aggregating at the node level. So if you want to do that, we say do it on the front end, like make sure that you get data in an aggregated way. So when multiple people from an organization are going to answer a survey, there's guidance that they get that says you should answer it together. And just to really think that through methodologically, if you aggregate, so for example, I say I have a positive relationship with Alex, and you say you have a negative relationship with Alex, there's no way to combine that. If I combine it and average it, we have a medium relationship with Alex. And that's not a true relationship. So methodologically, it often does not make sense to combine answers from people or organizations or whatever on relational data. So something to think about. So take care of it on the front end and put the good data in, and then make sure that you're not trying to make up people's responses by aggregating their relationships on the back end. We can talk more about that. Like I think it's you, Beth. I know I don't think we've met, but I love talking about this stuff. So call me and we can talk, and I can help think through that. Is there a way to see which recipients have not clicked on the survey link that you resent to those who have completed the survey? So when I go into, why am I stuck on this right now? When I go into collect, for some reason I'm stuck on my thing. Let me go from emails. What you can see, oops, I just completely jumped out of there. Let me see here really quick. If I go into my survey, so we'll go ahead and I don't see any other questions after this, so we'll just end with this one. So if I go to collect the data, you do see, so the status has not started, which means they haven't clicked on the survey, because if they click on the survey, it'll show that they came into it. So in this case, I don't have anyone who has started it, so I can't see that. And then I'll see the completion rate. We have a feature in there that actually, when someone is done, so I think I just had it open. So when someone is done, so I'm in the exit preview, but when they actually get to this point and they have finished the survey, they can hit submit. So we ask people to submit the survey so we know their intention that they are done. And we say that because some people just prefer not to answer the entire survey. And so what that means is that they will decide to not answer questions, or go to somewhere to decide they're not answering all of the questions. And so you might see a response rate, and you don't know if you should keep sending them reminders. So in that case, we let them submit, and that indicates that they are done. So we don't force people to answer questions. It actually doesn't usually work in an IRB. And so that's how that works. Okay, so is there any other, if there aren't any other questions, then we'll go ahead and end there. I will just put up our contact information. So This is me. You can email me directly anytime. You can also email hello@visiblenetworklabs.com or partnertool@visiblenetworklabs.com. And don't forget about our events. We love to see people in person, and we don't just talk about partner. We don't just even talk about Visible Network Labs or our method, but we bring people in from all over the country and the world, and it's just a fun place to get together and connect on these things. And if you really want to talk about your projects, come to our open office hours, and literally it's just that conversation, Beth, that I wish we were having right now about aggregating nodes. That's what we do in the office hours, is we really spend time talking through those kinds of issues, like, why do you think that? Would it be better this way? What if I ask this kind of question? How do I analyze? How do I make sense and translate to practice? So join us for that. It's a great place to kind of just be informal and talk face-to-face. So thank you, everyone, for joining our demo today. We love connecting. Stay connected, and have an absolutely fabulous rest of your week. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you again.